A black woman walks into a courtroom in Atlanta, poised, professional, perfectly qualified. They don't see her credentials. They don't see her decade of legal experience. All they see is her skin color and her braided hair. The security guard decides to teach her a lesson about respect. He humiliates her, violates her dignity, and cuts off her hair while his colleagues laugh. What he doesn't know, he just assaulted the newly appointed federal judge who's about to preside over his case. And she's not backing down. Not today, not ever. It was 7:45 a.m. when Maya Reynolds parked her charcoal sedan outside the Atlanta Federal Courthouse. The morning sun glinted off the glass facade as she climbed the wide limestone steps. Her tailored black suit fit perfectly. Her braids were styled neatly. She carried a leather portfolio with tomorrow's cases. Maya didn't wear her judicial robe outside. Never did. She preferred to enter buildings like any other citizen. At the security checkpoint, Officer Scott Daniels looked up. His eyes narrowed. 20 years on the job and an attitude that belonged in the 1950s. He didn't recognize her, didn't try to. "Ma'am, step aside, please," he barked, hand raised. Maya stopped. "Is there a problem?" Daniels didn't answer. His eyes traveled from her braids to her heels, judging every inch. Something about her bothered him. She looked confident, like she belonged. In his world, that needed correction. "No visible ID. Can't just stroll in here looking like that," he muttered. Maya reached inside her blazer and produced her federal credentials. The badge caught the light. Daniels barely glanced at it before pocketing it. "I'll need that back," she said firmly. He stepped closer. "In a hurry, sweetheart?" The word landed like a slap. A female guard shifted nervously by the scanner. She recognized the trouble brewing but stayed silent. "I have a courtroom to get to," Maya said. "Then you'll follow procedure," Daniel snapped, "including random checks." His hand clamped on her arm as he steered her toward a side room, away from witnesses, away from cameras. The room was small, windowless, with a metal chair in the center and equipment cart in the corner. "I don't consent to this," Maya said clearly. "You have no cause to detain me." "Acting suspicious is cause enough," he replied, pointing to the chair. "Sit." She didn't move. "You think that fancy badge means something?" "Not to me." His voice dropped to a whisper. Two more officers entered. One grabbed her wrist. Another stood blocking the door. "This is a violation. I want your names," Maya demanded. No one answered. Instead, Daniels reached for something on the cart, an electric trimmer. It hummed to life, filling the room with buzzing. "What are you doing?" Her voice rose. "Standard procedure. Could be hiding anything in that hair," he smirked. Maya tried to stand, but strong hands forced her down. The cold metal touched her scalp. The first braid fell to the floor. Then another. And another. She didn't scream, didn't cry. Her breath caught, but her eyes stayed dry and focused. She watched her braids, hours of work, symbols of her heritage, pool around her feet like discarded trash. "Looking better already," one guard laughed. "Should have shown more respect," Daniel said, brushing hair from his uniform. Maya's fists clenched in her lap. Her voice, when it returned, was ice. "You will regret this." Daniels leaned close. "People like you always say that." Then it was over. Door open. "You're free to go. Courtroom's down the hall," he mocked. Maya stood slowly. She retrieved her badge from Daniel's desk without asking and walked out with straight shoulders. Her steps were measured, her face composed. But inside, something burned hotter than rage. What Daniels didn't know, couldn't have imagined, was that she wasn't heading to just any courtroom. She was the judge, and in 30 minutes she would take the bench. Every step toward that courtroom felt heavier, not from defeat, from determination. Her scalp stung where her braids had been. Random tufts were all that remained of her hair, a visible mark of humiliation. Maya passed two clerks who stared, then averted their eyes. They'd heard, maybe seen. Not one spoke up. Outside the courtroom, voices hummed. Today's case? Police misconduct charges against officers who'd beaten protesters last summer. High profile, national press. And Officer Scott Daniels was the courthouse security liaison for the trial. Maya paused at the judge's entrance door, took one deep breath, then pushed it open. The courtroom fell silent instantly. Attorneys stopped mid-sentence. Journalists lowered their phones. It took exactly 3 seconds before realization rippled through the room. The woman they'd watched being escorted through security like a criminal. The woman whose dignity had been stripped away moments ago. She wasn't a defendant. She was Judge Maya Reynolds, and she was walking toward the bench. Maya stepped behind the bench and turned to face the courtroom. Her expression was calm, not from peace but from purpose, the kind of calm that comes before a storm. Someone near the defense table dropped a pen. The sound echoed like thunder. Officer Daniels stood frozen by the side door. His face went pale, mouth opening without sound. The blood drained from his face when their eyes met. She didn't flinch. Instead, she reached for her judicial robe folded neatly on her chair. She didn't call for assistance, didn't make a show of it. She simply put it on herself, one deliberate movement at a time. The black fabric settled on her shoulders like armor. She turned to the court clerk. "Is the docket ready?" Her voice was steady. The clerk stuttered, "Yes, Your Honor." Maya nodded once, then took her seat. The leather creaked softly beneath her. She looked straight ahead, gaze never straying to the man who'd humiliated her. "We will begin with case 4285B, United States versus Atlanta Police Department. Charges of excessive force, civil rights violations, and obstruction of justice. Are all parties present?" A chorus of "Yes, Your Honor" echoed through the stunned room. Attorneys shifted in their seats, some stared wide-eyed, others avoided eye contact. The tension in the room was thick enough to cut. "We will proceed," she said. The first witness was called, an officer who'd broken a veteran's arm during a peaceful protest. Maya listened, took notes, asked no questions. Not yet. From her peripheral vision, she saw Daniel slowly backing toward the rear exit. His hands twitched at his belt. His legs shuffled like a man approaching a cliff's edge. He was right to be afraid. After the second witness finished, she called a recess. "Court will resume in 15 minutes. The courtroom emptied quickly. Even the lawyers whispered like children afraid to make noise. Only when her clerk, 2 bailiffs, and Daniels remained did Maya finally speak his name. "Officer Daniels." He froze mid-step. "Step forward." His mouth opened. "Now!" He obeyed, moving like a man walking to his execution. When he reached the center of the courtroom, she finally looked directly at him. "State your full name for the record." He swallowed. "Scott James Daniels." "How long have you worked security in this courthouse?" 17 years, Your Honor." She tapped her pen against her notepad, once, twice, 3 times. "And in those 17 years, how many women have you assaulted in that screening room?" The color drained from his face. I didn't know who you were." "That's not what I asked." Her voice never rose, but sharpened like a blade. "How many complaints have been filed against you, Officer Daniels?" He looked around for help. None came. I don't recall exactly." 23, Maya said. 23 formal complaints, all buried, all dismissed, because you hid behind procedure and protocol." His mouth trembled. "I was just doing my job." "No." The word cracked through the stillness. "Your job was to ensure safety, not to humiliate women who look like me for sport." Maya rose from the bench. "Because of you, this courthouse, this temple of justice, has been desecrated. Because of your actions, every ruling from this bench is now questioned. And because you assaulted a federal judge in her own courthouse, you are now the subject of a criminal investigation." She turned to the officers by the door. "Take Officer Daniels into custody. Charges to be filed within the hour." "Wait, you can't," Daniels sputtered as the officers approached. "I can. I have. I will." Each phrase hit like a hammer. "And I'm just getting started." The courtroom no longer felt like a courtroom after they led Daniels away. It felt like ground zero, the epicenter of something seismic. Maya sat alone at the bench, the hushed whirring of ceiling fans the only sound. Her clerk entered cautiously. "Your Honor, the witnesses are ready." Maya nodded. How much time do we have?" About 10 minutes. Maya looked past her to the empty gallery, rows of benches where the public, press, and parties would soon return. The space where Daniels had stood felt contaminated, like oil on marble. A young intern named Jasmine stepped inside, clutching a folder. 22 years old, bright, always silent unless spoken to. Her hands shook slightly. "Your Honor, She paused, gathering courage. "I saw what happened this morning, in the hallway. I should have said something, done something." Maya studied the young woman's face. "Thank you for telling me. That matters." "I didn't stop it." "No," Maya replied. "But you're speaking now. That's more than most." Jasmine straightened her shoulders. "If you need me to testify about what I saw, I will." Maya reached across the desk and briefly covered the girl's hand with her own. No words, just human connection. Then the doors creaked open, the public returning. Maya stood. Everyone rose without being told, even those who didn't want to. "Court is now in session," she announced. The next witness was a father whose teenage daughter had been pepper sprayed at point-blank range while kneeling with her hands up. As he spoke, every word cut through the room like a knife, leaving no one untouched. When he finished, Maya leaned forward. "Mr. Washington, thank you for your courage. I know this isn't easy." His voice cracked. "I just want to know it matters, that someone is finally listening." Maya looked at him not as a judge, but as someone who understood exactly what it meant to be silenced. "You have been heard," she said, and in that moment, something shifted in the courtroom. This wasn't just a hearing anymore. It was a revolution. By afternoon, the courthouse steps were crowded with protesters, community leaders, and citizens. Black, white, young, old, some with signs, others standing in silent witness. News vans lined the street, cameras pointed at the building's facade. Inside, Judge Maya Reynolds sat at her desk, looking through her window at the growing crowd. She could read their signs. Justice now. Protect black women. 23 complaints, 0 accountability. She closed her eyes briefly, not to escape, but to absorb the moment. The weight of what was happening, truth rising after years buried under paperwork and silence. A knock at her door. Her clerk entered, followed by Reverend James Turner, a civil rights leader she hadn't seen in years. His beard had gone completely gray, but his eyes still burned with purpose. "Judge Reynolds," he said quietly. "Reverend, won't take much of your time. Just wanted you to know we're out there. We see what you're doing, and we stand with you." He handed her a folded paper. "These people outside, many were victims too, of Daniels, of others like him. They never got their day in court, never had their voices heard, but they're ready now." Maya unfolded the list. Names, phone numbers, handwritten notes, pages of them. "How many are new complaints?" she asked. "Most. Some go back decades. Some were afraid. Some were told it wasn't worth it." She looked up. They were wrong. It is worth it now. When court resumed, the gallery had doubled. Word had spread like wildfire. People outside watched live streams on their phones, huddled together in the autumn sun. Maya entered and the room stood, not just out of tradition, but out of respect for what she now represented. "We're ready to proceed," she said, tapping her gavel once. The final witness surprised everyone. Lisa Chin, former courthouse administrator, approached the stand. She'd worked there for 15 years before mysteriously retiring last spring. After being sworn in, Chin spoke clearly. "I processed those complaints against Daniels. All 23, I was ordered to bury them." "By whom?" the prosecutor asked. "Chief Judge Whitman. He said, and I quote, 'Some people need to learn their place in this building.'" A shocked murmur rippled through the courtroom. Maya studied her notes, then looked up. "This court finds Officer Scott Daniels guilty of abuse of power, violation of civil rights, and criminal assault. He is sentenced to the maximum penalties under federal law." She placed a folder on the bench. "This court also recommends immediate review of every complaint ever filed under his supervision and formal investigation into all officials who protected him." She held up another document. "Effective immediately, I am instituting the Reynolds Protocol in this jurisdiction, requiring comprehensive anti-bias training, psychological screening, and zero tolerance for discriminatory behavior in federal courthouses. Maya stood, removing her robe. This was never about revenge. It's about responsibility, about looking at a broken system and saying no more. 6 months later, Maya stood before a classroom of middle school students. Their teacher had invited her to speak about justice and courage. A quiet girl in the back raised her hand. After everything that happened, do you still believe in the system? Maya paused. I don't believe in what the system was, she replied. But I believe in what it can become, and I believe in people like you asking that question. That's how change happens. That evening, as she left the school, Maya touched her hair, now grown into a short, natural crown. She had refused to hide the scars of that day. Instead, she'd made them part of her strength. Because justice isn't just about punishment. It's about standing tall when the world tells you to shrink. It's about speaking when silence is easier. And sometimes it's about one person brave enough to say, enough. If this story moved you, if it made you feel seen or inspired you to stand against injustice in your own life, share it with someone who needs hope. Subscribe for more stories that matter, stories that challenge, inspire, and speak truth. Because true justice begins with us right here, right now.